Katherine Givens, Senior Style and Market Editor at Luxe Interiors and Design Magazine. Thanks so much for tuning into Design TV, where today we're chatting trends in the marketplace. I am very excited to be joined by three dynamic designers who will be sharing their take on what's influencing furnishings, decor, and the way we live. We all recently attended High Point Market, First up is Don Ricardo Massenberg of Design Incredible. He's recognized for his use of lush layered design is considered a luxury. It can be attainable for everyone. His love for textiles, art, furniture, and anything bold and creative fuels his passion for interior design. Welcome, Don Ricardo.
Thank you so much.
Next up, we have Rachel Moriarty. She's an award-winning designer, best-selling author, brand ambassador, and industry leader in the use of color. A former fashion stylist, Rachel's passion for fabric, texture, and color infuses all her creative. Has been featured in many catalogs and publications. Thank you for being here, Rachel.
Thank you for having me.
Last but not least, Marshall Erb creates carefully curated rooms and lifestyle. He brings an architect's eye to all his projects, literally working from the ground up to help realize his client's vision, and has been able to turn his passion for design into a thriving business. Hi, Marshall.
Hi there. Thanks for having me today.
So I know I just gave our viewers a little bit of a background, but before we kick things off, I'm hoping you can each let us know maybe where you are, describe your aesthetic approach alone, or what's on the docket for the rest of 2020. Just, sort of a brief intro. Marshall, you want to kick it off?
Sure, I'd be happy to. I am tuning in from Chicago, Illinois, where I live. And actually working from home today, which actually we haven't been doing. I've been actually in the office working. We've got quite a few projects going on, actually. It seems that everybody wants to redo their house right now because they are staring at it all day. So it's great news for the residential interior design market. It's great to see this much enthusiasm about interiors right now, even during the midst of what we're dealing with globally. So it's a lot of fun. We've got about 13 or 14 projects on the books right now, everywhere from New York to Aspen to and Chicago, throughout the Chicagoland area. So it's been a great time. People are thinking ahead. People are doing vacation homes. People are doing homes that they're planning for 1 to 2 years, and they're using the experience of what they're going through this year to create an interior, moving ahead that will fit the lifestyle that we're sort of anticipating.
Gosh, sounds like you have a lot on your plate, but all good things. Rachel, where are you right now?
Hi, I'm coming to you from San Diego, California, and I design in what I like to refer to as colorfully coastal. Most of the projects I work on are, along the beach, have a view of the beach or on the ocean, but I don't tend to do those like serene sand and beach colors. I really like to that's not really what my clients come to me for. So it's a little bit more of a bigger palette. And like Marshall, we are slammed at this time. This has been an amazing time for the home industry in general. All of my trades, everybody. And what we're doing a lot of, I've got about 15 projects in all different, scopes and scale. Doing a lot of paint, a lot of repainting. I've never done so many color consultations in my life. And so, yeah, so I think around spring, we were kind of thinking this might happen. We were thinking that people might take their vacation funds and move it over to the home, but that's actually what my clients are telling me. I was going to go here, I was going to go there, but I'm going to put it towards the home. So that's been great for our industry.
Interesting to hear. And Don Ricardo, you're in the South, correct?
Right. So I'm in Durham, North Carolina, which is about 45 minutes from High Point. And if you're familiar with Duke University or North Carolina Central or State, I'm right there in the middle of all those institutions. And just like Rachel and Marshall, super busy right now. About 15 projects, some of the fun ones. I'm working on a bar lounge downtown Durham, which is going to be really cool when they can actually open up. And then a couple home theaters. And of course, people reach out to me for bedroom design. I'm good in the bedroom, I like to say. So that's what we're working on right now. And it's been awesome. I think there were like 2 weeks where I was trying to decide, okay, what am I going to do? How am I going to bring business in? Am I going to do virtual design? And talking to other colleagues, and we're just kind of figuring that out. And then after that time, phone ring, and everybody has been super busy. And so it's just been awesome seeing what we can do, how we've done High Point Market virtually and all of that. It's just been awesome seeing the design industry just innovate during this time. So
Yeah, I agree. You guys, it's an interesting time, but you all sound very busy, which again is a good thing. But I want to shift gears for a second back to trade shows. You know, I was certainly bummed this year not to get to go to High Point in person, but I certainly can't wait to get back there next year. Luckily, I was able to, you know, FaceTime with some of my favorite vendors and see pieces virtually. You know, there were so many great designs, and, you know, I can't really wait to hear what you guys are seeing, you know, and get your sort of designer input. But I know trend is a little bit of a dirty word, right? I think, you know, there's so much happening, and I do think it's important to sort of reflect on what we're seeing in the market, right? And really how it's influencing the way we live. And Don Ricardo, I did want to start with you because you picked up on something that I was also seeing out there, which to me is about, you know, organic lines, rounded forms, and sort of an all-embracing furniture, right? Right now, I think people want to be surrounded by things that are maybe a little bit softer, maybe not so hard, not too linear, but tell us about embracing curves and this trend.
I felt like market, you know, I was there in person and all the exhibitors had us going in circles, basically. There were rounded edges everywhere. And it just seems like we're all on board with kind of embracing those playful curves. And so I didn't see a lot of large boxy sectionals and straight line sofas. I felt like they're being swapped out for softer pieces, shapely design pieces. There were several pieces that I style spotted that just had that kind of round nature. It felt like a hug. It was embracing you. And then not only upholstered pieces, but also desk and coffee tables. There are a few pieces I also spotted with the rounded edges. And so I just felt like furniture now is doing like a dual purpose. It's furniture, but it's also art. So it's like a sculptural sofa that's in the middle of the room that you notice immediately when you walk in. And so it's just not only for sitting, it's now, you know, a statement piece in the room. And I love it.
That's a good point. And you picked out, you know, several pieces in particular that I loved. One was this interlude home armchair with such beautiful lines. How would you use that?
So, definitely anywhere. So an office, you know, 2 receiving chairs at an office or 2 accent chairs in a living space or a cigar lounge, awesome club chairs, just the way they wrap around, amazing. It just feels like a hug, right?
I agree. I love that. Feels like a hug, something very soft. And I have to point out this bed too, this upholstered bed from Cavaletto Home, I believe, which you just want to sing up this piece.
So that piece is oversized, size matters. So it's an oversized piece, round edges. We're calling it a shelter bed now rather than a wing back. And I love that term.
Oh, that's nice.
It just wraps around you. It feels super cozy. But then there's like a modern feel to it. And I just think that this trend, you know, it was 80s, it was 70s, and I think it's just come back and it's beautiful.
And then last but not least is this sweet little nightstand, which I just think you could also put anywhere, right?
Absolutely. And the thing about this is, again, for a smaller space, you may not have, you know, tons of room. And so when you do rounded edges, it just frees up a little bit of space. And what I like about this piece is it's beautiful. It looks really luxe, but you're not going to break the bank on it. So I definitely love that.
And you also mentioned work from home, which is obviously, a growing movement right now. I want to hear everyone's take on this, but especially yours, Don Ricardo. Like, what does this trend really mean?
So I just feel like, whether you're saying you're working from home or you're living from work, we're doing it at some point. I know a lot of us have gone back, but it was just awesome to see, exhibitors at High Point just jump right on it and say, this is what our people need, so let's do it. And one thing about the work from home pieces that I felt like they were doing is showing, smaller desks or writing desks, things that could be used more in a multifunctional space. And so if you're not using a desk in a dedicated office, this desk can be placed in a corner of a bedroom, or it can be placed to, kind of create definition in a family room, or, placed against the wall in front of your beautiful Zoom backdrop, like Rachel. But I just think they were really paying attention to pieces that could be flipped around and moved. There was one piece at Universal Furniture, the Duchamp's writing desk. And so there's a storage base with 3 drawers, but then the workspace top can swivel around. And so it could be L-shaped or it could be floating, and just also paying attention to detail. The back of the piece is finished and it looks amazing away from the wall, So absolutely glad that they were showing those types of things, because I've been asked so much. We need a home office. We need a workspace. We need somewhere for the kids to Zoom. So
Marshall and Rachel, you guys must be seeing this too, obviously, right? Like, huge boom in the work from home sphere.
Absolutely. We've been trying to bring to light the idea that clients don't have to necessarily sit at a desk, like a formal, 2-pedestal desk. I mean, everybody is sitting in front of a laptop or an iPad or their phone, and you can work anywhere. So we love incorporating like a games table in a living room, because it just allows you to go somewhere else. You don't have to face the wall the whole time. You can sit in the kitchen at the table. You can sit at the kitchen counter. So we're really trying to embrace using the entire house. And now that everybody's home, everybody has to spread out. So we're looking at it not as a typical office setup. Sometimes it's like Don Ricardo was saying, that the desk is sort of convertible, or it can float, or it could be a console. I think we're seeing a lot of flexibility in furniture now.
That's a great point. And Rachel, I know you mentioned that it was really about textured everything for you, right? When it comes to what you are seeing at market, interesting materials, beautiful textiles. Tell us a little bit about this.
Yeah, it's really funny because I really see everything through Technicolor lenses. I mean, usually when my trend report or style report summations come out, it's like, this is the new color and this is, color's the new neutral or something like that, right? Which is one of my points. But but for me, what stood out was this texture, and it was everything. Ryan Corbin put out a sconce that looked like bark, but it was put in epoxy and in a plaster finish. I mean, they're sandblasting, clamshells, shells, just the relief of everything. All of the case goods have some sort of texture to it. Cerusing was already coming out, but I felt like there was a lot more of that. The fabrics as well, more like there were chenilles were getting popular, but clay already. But not only are chenilles popular, but it's like a striade chenille, And so it was just like taking everything and just turning the volume up a little bit more is what I felt like I saw.
I love that. I want to go through some of your pieces. One that struck me was this amazing pallet check table. It's like very, very interesting material. Like, where would you use that, or how would you use it?
Oh my gosh. Well, I love that because it's white. And for me, I use white as sort of a graphic element because I use so much color in my spaces. White is really dramatic when you use a lot of colorful spaces. So for me to use white, it's got to have, a lot of texture, and that one had the crushed clamshell texture to it.
And I love some of the upholstery pieces that you chose, your picks here. There was like this beautiful Bernhardt swivel and a Nathan Anthony, chair that were both like so enveloping, but the materials, you're right.
Oh my gosh.
Top-notch, right? So
cute. I think it was the Lulu swivel. It was so cute. I mean, it's like Little Miss Muffet sat on her tuffet, sort of a swivel. It was so adorable. And then the Nathan Anthony, I think that was one of the darlings of market. I kept seeing everybody post that it's called the Embrace chair, and it had a little pink ball sofa, and it has a heart ottoman with it, and it was like the sweetheart, the belle of the ball, really.
I love that. So, Marshall, I'm interested to sort of hear your take on what's happening in the market as well. You had a few trends, all of which I loved, but some were kind of opposites, which I'm interested to sort of delve into. But let's start with jewel tones, because Alexa Hampton's sort of space and her pieces for Theodore Alexander, that was like one of my favorite moments at High Point too. Tell us about jewel tones.
Alexa launched that collection, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was October was the first launch of her collection, 200 something pieces with Theodore Alexander. And it was just like a breath of fresh air. I mean, we're coming out of the gray doldrums, right? I mean, like now finally clients are saying, please, no gray. And instead of saying, please give me gray, right? To walk into that showroom last October and see, wow, this power of color. She's the queen of color. She really can use it and deploy it in such a strong yet subtle and classy way. And we're now seeing that trickle out to other vendors too, as it becomes more and more comfortable. And it's so funny that the topics that we're all talking about today and looking at each designer's backdrop, I'm glad I didn't decorate my room like this with jewel tones for this talk. This was done 2 years ago. Sarah is older. So anyway, this has just been something that I've been reacting to. It's like I went from sort of a neutral, kind of an all white, more high contrast color palette to going to more jewel tones. So that was a switch I made about 2 years ago. You can see remnants of the kind of ivory. Oh wait, I don't know which shirt. I'm not a good one. And then we've got the jewel tones popping throughout. But I've noticed that there's still those two strong trends. And if you look at the back of Ricardo's room, he's got the high contrast, black and white, and the texture that we were talking about with Rachel. It's kind of crazy how designers can all move in the same direction, and we don't really realize it until you get to market, and then you're like, wait, I did that, 2 or 3 years ago, because it's starting to trickle out, getting out through Instagram, social media, and through magazines. So now we're starting to see it hit the market, which is really kind of fun.
And Don, Ricardo, and Rachel, I want to get your take on color as well. Are clients asking for color? Do you guys feel like you're using brighter hues? Don, Ricardo, why don't you weigh in? I want to hear what you think.
So I was on this for years, this blue thing. I posted like a blue dining room, and then people would screenshot it and say, we want this, we want this, we want this. And then I feel like recently colors have just, like Marshall said, their earth tones are just warmer. Richer, warmer tones, and that's what I saw. I was there in Global Views, and I saw those beautiful reds and the oranges, and so I absolutely agree. And I think for me, because I was so focused on color for so long, just inviting some of the neutrals in with some of just the warmer, rich earth tones is kind of where I'm leaning personally, just because I want to broaden my portfolio, but also, Rachel, just your thought, white as a bold graphic. I've never thought of that, so I just wrote that down.
Yeah, Rachel, I think of you as sort of the queen of color, but here you are with that white comment. Very interesting.
I know, it's funny. People always think I'm anti-white, and I'm not. I think it's a great tool to use with color.
Mm-hmm.
So Marshall, you also mentioned something that I quickly want to touch on, which is like high contrast. And I know you mentioned it briefly, and this can take a lot of different shapes, right? But I certainly saw tons of, black and white, a very timeless, color combination. But I want to touch on some of these pieces. You really said like Olive Bernhardt, right, had this palette, and it was really beautiful.
They really played with textures. So like Rachel was saying, we're seeing the move a little bit from velvet, which was so hot for the last couple of years, to boucle. Like everything has a texture on it. But they've done it in such a way that the upholstery, if it didn't have curves, it had a wood or a metal element. Like they've made upholstery more interesting. It's just not your grandma's sofa anymore, all covered in fabric. They really added shape, they added texture, they added beautiful leg details. They made it so that it could float in a room, which I think is so cool, especially with everyone's open floor plans. And we all have clients that have a family room off the kitchen where this, what do we do with the back of the sofa? Usually it's a console table, but in this case, we don't need to do anything because the sofa has a beautiful curve to it. But we're seeing a contrast in, let's say it's a shiny fabric on the sofa and a rustic wood leg. We're seeing wooden table bases with metal detailing. Some of the metal detailing is shiny, some of it's matte. So we see this contrast in finishes, sheen levels, texture, and of course in color. So even if you have a very simple white room, and I think that's totally derivative from Instagram, and also I mentioned Alyssa Capito's, and I hope I pronounced her name right, her room that she did. It was a show house. It was an all white room with tons of texture and then dark elements of artwork, graphic, bold, abstract art. We saw a lot of that in the accessories at High Point. It's an interesting trend, and I think a lot of people can incorporate it in, whether it's a shiny, beautiful wood table with more rustic chairs.
So I want to shift gears for just a second and, talk a little bit about quarantine living, because, it's obviously influencing design right now. And I would assume, some of your projects, but are your clients asking for anything different right now? Or are you selecting pieces that, you might not have previously? Rachel, why don't you kick it off? I'd love your thoughts.
Sure. Well, I'm in San Diego, so our outdoor category is blowing up. In fact, I think a lot of us, we're just getting ready to move down into a tighter tier because our numbers have been going up. I think a lot of people will be hosting their Thanksgivings or their Friendsgivings outdoors this year. And so that's sort of the trend. People are using every square inch of the property that they have. And so a lot of it, because we have such great weather here, we're really, we've always talked about the outdoors and outdoor living space, but now even the pieces, they're almost hard to tell whether it belongs outdoor or not. It looks like an actual sofa outside, so we can really, really dig into these pieces, and that makes me super excited.
Yeah, I agree. That category is just blowing up. Marshall, maybe not in Chicago. I don't know.
No, absolutely here.
Okay.
We're doing that, and there was several launches actually of outdoor furniture. I think University of the Collection for outdoor category. I know Gabby expanded, Curry, the company expanded their outdoor furniture collection. So everybody's getting outdoors. Here in Chicago, we're doing things like putting in more infrared heaters outside so that we can extend the season. So, even though today in Chicago it's 77 in November, can't figure that out. But I'm sure tomorrow it's going to be cold. So we're trying to do whatever we can to extend the season here, and that could be building in heaters. We're doing things for new construction, like putting in extra freezer space for clients. Doesn't really have to do with furniture so much, but the mudroom is becoming even bigger. The mudroom's taking on package areas so people can kind of let stuff sit for a while in a mudroom area. The mudrooms, like I said, all have, we'll put an extra freezer there instead of having it in the kitchen, because everyone kind of has their stash, just in case, nearby. And then other technical things like HEPA filters and UV light filtration for the HVAC systems are all things that we're talking about. Even humidification systems in Chicago are very important, because there's studies coming out saying that humidification also can help lower numbers inside. We're trying to stay abreast of all of those bits of information as they come through and try to incorporate them into the new projects we're working on.
So interesting. A year ago, it might not have seemed like a category that, you would have been integrating into your home, but it really is now, which is so interesting. But Don Ricardo, tell us a little bit about what you're seeing. Are clients asking for things, unusual things right now?
Well, we're doing a lot of home bars. So, we're doing a lot of home bars, entertainment areas. I mentioned the home theater that we're working on. So people are really trying to figure out how they can entertain themselves or entertain the kids or, at home. And I just think it'll last. I don't know, how long we'll be kind of in this space that we're in, but I definitely think people are really trying to utilize their space at home and realize how they can come together and be apart at the same time. So
certainly, yeah. But yeah, I agree. Home bars definitely on the rise in general.
A lot of the homes are definitely, I think people are happy that they have those large homes that they were just about ready to get rid of.
Right.
And all the kids came home again.
Absolutely.
So suddenly all that empty space is now full again. So they're happy about it.
I hear you. It's true. But, thank you guys all so much, for being here and talking trends, and really, it's so interesting for me to hear, what's happening at market. Again, I can't wait to be back, hopefully in 2021, and see each of you, sourcing at showrooms and walking around. But before we wrap up, I'd love to sort of, for each of us to share really what we're looking forward to most, at next market. And I'll go first. I think, number one for me, and I would think for a lot of people, is just seeing people again in our industry, right? I think High Point really brings people together. It's a connector, which is, so important right now and really always in the design world. So I'm hoping that will be able to happen again soon. And also just as a market editor, it's paramount to be able to experience furnishings and pieces in person. It really informs, what we do in the magazine. It shapes our stories. And of course, you understand, quality and construction. So, I can't wait to be back in High Point showrooms in 2021. But what about you, Marshall? What are you looking forward to?
Well, so much what we use Market for is actually to go do a sit test. So, everything that we sit in everything that we sell. So, because we don't necessarily have the pieces in a showroom in Chicago. So my clients entrust me to say, you know what, I sat on this. It was amazing. It builds great. It's got this and that functionality to it. And I think that's so important, is having the firsthand experience with the product so that you can see it and explain it, because you can't quite get that from a sample or from a photo. So really having that hands-on experience, I think, is so important. And of course, there's a social aspect that's so awesome, is to run into people in the street that you haven't seen in a while, and to just casually, conduct fun business
right.
in person is something that I think we're all looking forward to, no matter where it is, but especially at market.
Rachel, what about you?
Same, exactly the same. I really miss the personal contact. But I have to say, I think one great lesson from this, because I did both spring and fall virtually, and then Las Vegas market, I didn't go either. So I did that one virtually. But there are tools, and this has kind of, taught us that we can do market even if you can't travel there. You can still take that time. You can still intentionally look at items and really Dawn and I just got off a Style Spotters call, and 4 went in person and 4, did it virtually. And the summation was that we both nailed it. We both, even though we weren't there, Don was saying he would get into a showroom and our card would be there. Someone would have dropped off our card right before he got in there. Yeah. So, it really does show you that you can do this virtually. I miss the in-person. I will definitely go back in the spring. But what makes me happy about that is I hit a saturation point at a certain time, and everything kind of and you can't sit, it's so big, you can't sit on everything. And so I think for me, I think this is even better. I think the vendors and manufacturers kind of embracing technology, I think it's a good thing for the industry.
I hear you. I definitely hear you. But, Don Ricardo, I know you were obviously there in person, but, what are you looking forward to for 2021 High Point Market?
Well, first, I'm going to say that I'm not sure if I want you guys to come back. Market, seriously, I've been going to market for years, and this was one of the best markets for me to really get in and get work done. There were no crowds. There was no pushing. I was able to sit on the sofa, put my feet up rather than, quickly get up because this next person needs to sit, And so it was really a good market to get work done. And then High Point did an awesome job making us feel safe, stretching it out, taking the temperatures. That was really awesome too. But I feel like next market, I'm definitely going to be looking forward to the talks, some of the educational sit downs that I always frequent when I'm at market. Those are really important. And just taking selfies and shaking hands and hugging again, because market is where I meet a lot of people that I may, chat with on social media. And so we meet twice a year at market. And so just kind of missing that was what happened this time for me, but it was awesome.
Yeah, again, thank you guys so much. I'm really looking forward to next market and hopefully, seeing each of you there. I appreciate you weighing in and sharing your designer knowledge and hearing about some of your favorite finds. And to our viewers, appreciate you tuning in to Design TV and see you next time. Bye.